We're gonna talk about homeownership. Hey, Sabrina, girl.
Yes, hey, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It is my pleasure and my honor. I'm hoping that I can give somebody some information and some wisdom that can help them on their journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I have questions. I know a lot of my friends have questions. And I
Mhm.
feel like it's a good conversation to have where people don't have to necessarily like go to a home ownership class, which you should do, but talking to a realtor, getting some insight before they actually start their journey, I feel like that's a great help. So that's where I'm coming in. That's where you're coming in. I appreciate your time today, honey.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
as I said, Sabrina is a real estate extraordinaire. How long have you been into the real estate business industry?
Oh, so I've been in real estate now for 4 years. 4 years.
And
Yes.
what started your journey? What was it for you? What were you doing
So
before?
I started first in property management.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I got into the real estate industry. That is multifaceted, multi-layered, a lot of moving parts, just like pretty much all aspects of real estate is.
Yeah, yeah.
But I started with property management in Georgia. That led me to a couple different states through promotion, and then I ended up leaving that job and getting my license. And so I've been doing that the last year.
Awesome. Awesome. That's so cool. So when you were doing property management, was it like for like apartment companies or were you like working with
Yep.
okay.
So
That's cool.
worked for a couple of property management companies, and I had in my last position 228 units under my belt that I managed, and so it was large scale property management. It wasn't just a couple of small
Yeah,
homes here.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So big apartment communities.
Good for you, girl. I know a lot of people have gotten into like the real estate industry. I know a couple of my friends have gotten their license. And how hard would you say it is to like actually
Like get your
pass?
license. Yeah.
Yeah.
So each state has its statistics on first time pass rates. In Missouri, it was a 37% first time pass rate.
Oh gosh, that's
So
very
that means that only 3 out of 10 people are passing the first time.
yeah.
You have a national part of the exam and then a state part. So it's not hard if you study. So really, really, really big on that. Study, study, study. Whatever they, first of all, pick a good, credible school. It's generally a 2 week to 6 week program, depending on your method that you take, online or in person. But if you can afford yourself the time to study, pay attention in class, go home and study every single night after class, keep yourself refreshed on the information. You study well, you'll pass the first time.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I did. So when I took my exam, I took the class and then I went home and I took that book
Mhm.
and I wrote the book out literally in a like separate notebook, and
Yeah,
then I
yeah.
read and then I recorded myself reading my notes. So I had, I was taking in the information through reading it, writing it, saying it, listening to
Listen,
it,
yeah.
just repetitive. And then the morning of the test, I woke up 2 hours prior to study some more.
Yeah.
And I sat down in front of that computer and I'm like, oh, I know that. I know the answer to that. I know that.
Right.
And I ended up passing the first time. So the key is to study.
Yeah, period. Studying helps. Studying helps a lot.
Yes.
That's how I felt when I did my customs brokerage license. I was like, I ain't never done this before, but I was paying so much attention in class. And like I had my own little study buddy because I was like, I'm gonna get this. I'm not doing it again. Like if I
Me too.
fail,
I
maybe
can't
it's not for me.
not pass the first time. I can't afford it.
Right. I can't afford to do it again. But that's some great information. So I want to know for a person who's like a first time home buyer interested in buying a home but don't know where to start, where would you say a person should start at? Should they start looking at like maybe their credit? Should they try to find a realtor? Like where should they go?
Yeah, so in real time, it happens on both ends of the spectrum. So
Yeah.
I have clients that reach out through Zillow, and they either don't know what their credit score is. Their first step was a realtor. Sometimes they'll come to me and say, "Well, I've been looking at my credit, and I know what my score is, and now I'm reaching out to you." So give or take, it just depends.
Okay.
Um, if they haven't really looked at their credit and don't know what it is yet, of course, I'm going to recommend that
Right.
before we move into some of the next steps. But either or, because a good realtor should be able to advise you and guide you on what steps to take to not only pull your credit, but then know what direction to take in terms of getting you prepared if you aren't already there.
Okay. And that leads into my next question because what makes a person a good realtor? Like how do you know when you found someone who's like has your best interest at heart. They're like, should you hire multiple realtors? Should a person talk to like multiple people and then kind of interview them? Or
Yeah,
what would you
that's a
say?
good word. So you can definitely interview a bunch of different realtors. So when you get to a place that you found one, you'll likely sign what's called a buyer's agency agreement, and that does lock you in for a certain period of time with that particular realtor. It might just be for a couple of weeks, it may be for a few months, could be for a year, or it could just be for one home that you're looking at.
Okay.
Um, but after you've interviewed them, some of the questions you want to ask them are, what are their track records? Have how many homes have they sold? How knowledgeable are they with that particular market? Um, and then ultimately, a lot of the things that they do will come out throughout the transaction. You'll see how well they communicate, how well they pay attention. So when you're in that beginning stage and you're saying, hey, I want to buy a house, and they ask you, well, what are you looking for? If you say 3 bed, 2 baths, and then all you get is a bunch of 1 bed, 1 bath condos,
Right.
somebody that's paying attention to you, that's listening to your feedback, and also communicating with you very thoroughly throughout the transaction. And even in the rapport building stage, it's kind of some keys to know that, okay, this is someone that's going to really walk me through this process and understand what I need.
Mm-hmm.
And then also not push me or rush me.
Right. I
So
feel like a person who would try to rush you, somebody like myself who never owned a home, I probably wouldn't go with that person just because like I don't want to feel rushed. I want to feel like I'm coming to you with like something I want to do. I want to feel like you care as much as I care. So
right.
that's a good bit of advice. What about like I guess the closing and like the legalization of like when you buy a home, do you talk to your clients about the inspections and stuff? I hear a lot of people talk about that and like having money for closing costs and making sure that you're reading that, or trying to have a realtor who can help you get closing costs reduced or stuff. Is that something that all realtors do or?
Yeah, so let me kind of piggyback off the last question. So a good realtor, another way that you would know one, is not only their knowledge in the market, but also their knowledge about the different moving parts of the transaction. So that's the lender, what mortgage loan products are available to you, what first-time home buyer programs are available to you, who are they connected to, their resources. And so understanding someone that has all of the moving parts down pat, they should be able to help you. So you had asked about inspections. That's a part of the process, of course, in purchasing a home. And they will likely have a recommendation for an inspector.
Okay.
And when you get your inspection report back, they'll be able to go over it with you. So if I can kind of take it a different direction a little bit, that is one of the most important keys of having a realtor, is because they're going to understand all the legal components of the real estate buying or selling transaction, keeping you up to date with the different dates that need to be met during the process, understanding your rights, making sure you're protected. It's even something that's so simple as a date in the contract, in the sales contract. If a date is missed, it could put you in a bad spot, and then you need to know what your rights are. So many different moving parts, but and I don't know if I answered your question, but I think you were talking about inspections.
Yeah. But basically, what I was asking is like, will a good realtor be able to help you identify things to look for within
Yeah.
buying a home? So, like you said, like if you need an inspection, who can you go to? If you need a contractor for a repairman, who are your recommendations? Do all realtors give referrals like that? Are those some things to look for? Like if your realtor is not coming with recommendations for your buying process?
Yeah, generally most realtors will have a slew of resources of people that they could recommend to you. And to your question about, do they look for certain things? So a lot of times home buyers should understand that realtors are not inspectors.
Right.
And a lot of times they get us mixed up in our roles.
Mm-hmm.
We can facilitate getting the inspector into the home as you're buying and purchasing a home. But we have a surface level, maybe a little bit deeper than surface level knowledge of different things to look for in a home. So if we're walking through a home and there's clearly a water slide on the ceiling, hey, make sure when you get your home inspection, if you put in an offer on this home, talk to your inspector about that.
Okay.
And that's another thing I do recommend buyers to go to the home inspection with them,
Okay.
with the inspector. But so yeah, to answer your question, we do have the eye because we are a little bit more keen. We're in and out of houses all day long to see different things, but we're always mostly going to push you back to the inspector. Say, hey, recognize that, look at that, make a note of that. We're writing an offer on this home. If your contract is accepted, make sure your inspector looks at all of those things that we point out.
Okay.
Like, because we just don't want to cross the line of giving so much of a definitive answer because
Right.
they could like you. Well, my realtor said, but your realtor's not an inspector.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Okay. So for someone, say, one income, maybe a single mother, single father, small family, um, are there like resources for like home buyer programs? First, like a good realtor should be able to, I'm thinking, be able to like, okay, these are good programs you will qualify for. Do they walk you through the steps of these different programs, or you're just kind of like, okay, these are just where you could go to get this and this and then.
Right. So when I talk with a new client, I kind of understand what their situation is. A lot of times it feels invasive, and I just give them a reassurance, say, I know it probably seems a little bit, invasive or like I'm being nosy about your personal situation, but I'm asking certain questions to understand what lender I can potentially partner you with based on your circumstance. So if you tell me that you have this, this, and this going on, then I know that, okay, potentially my person at Bank of America would be a good fit for you. Or if you have another scenario happening in your life or some changes that are going to be coming up soon, then okay, talk to this lender over at Guild Mortgage.
Okay.
So having that interview and that conversation with the buyer is what will help me to understand who might be a good fit, but then also have some backups available too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Do
excuse me.
do you recommend for people to like try to find their own lenders and like use Rocket Mortgage before they talk to their actual realtor, or
So it can be risky. It can be risky when you're searching online. There are, as we know, a lot of scams. A lot of people after your money, a lot of people after your personal information. So you want to make sure that you are working with credible, reliable, professional companies and be very careful in doing your research as you're looking for lenders. A lot of times people start with their bank. That if their bank offers mortgage programs. And if you don't know where to start, yes, most realtors will have a group of lenders that they've worked with. Like for example, myself, I have, I believe, 4 or 5 lenders in my pocket that I went to the closing table with. So I know that throughout the transaction, they're competent enough to handle everything that needs to be taken care of. And we're going to make sure there's a smooth transaction and the lender is going to do their part to see to it that you get to the closing table.
okay.
So if you don't know where to start, then that realtor with that professional knowledge and the expertise can definitely guide you into where to start credit wise, lender wise, first time home buyer programs, going over all those qualifications with you. So for sure.
Okay. So, I guess my next question is, what are some of the things that you have like told a client that you couldn't even believe that they didn't know they could have? Like, whether it be like they didn't know that they would qualify for certain things, or they didn't know like these are certain things that they could do to make their process easier.
I think the biggest one is the credit score.
Mm.
Often is the first question that is asked. Well, what does my credit score need to be? Does it need to be in the 700s? Absolutely not.
Right.
The biggest first time home buyer program that I work with, credit score starts at 640.
Mm.
If you can't meet that requirement, there are lenders who can work with you with a credit score starting at 580.
Okay.
And I have put a buyer into a home with a credit score of 584, right there on the line.
Mm.
And he still got approved. So I think that's the biggest shocker is seeing that realization on their face, like, what? Well, then I might
Yeah.
qualify. I might,
Yeah.
so yeah, getting them into the frame of mind to understand that although there's a lot of information online, the reality is if you're not looking in the right places, you won't really know what could be beneficial for you in your situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest ones is just seeing them come to the realization that it doesn't have to be perfect for me to still buy a home.
Right. And I think that's the major thing. Excuse me, are you okay? Um, I think that's the biggest thing for me. I know when I thought that I was ready at first, I was like, okay, but I'm working to get my credit score at like 750 because I like, of course, I just want to have a perfect credit score, but I'm thinking this is what you have to qualify. And I talked to one of my friends who owns like so many houses in Virginia, and he was like, you don't need that, right? Like, you don't have to have that. And I was like, what? But I still wasn't ready because I just didn't realize at that time I just wasn't ready. Basically, I just
Yeah.
wasn't ready for like looking for it, getting pre-approved. I wasn't in the space. But now I feel like I'm in the space, and knowing the knowledge that I do know, I'm not as scared as I was before, because I thought like my credit had to be perfect. I thought like my bank accounts had to be perfect. I thought I just had so many thoughts and like misconceptions that people told me. I don't have anyone in my family, like in my immediate family, who has bought a home. So I really didn't know. I was looking at like people on Facebook. I'm using like stories that I've heard rather than actually going through the experience myself. And now that I've kind of went through the experience, I'm like, oh, well, just like we were saying yesterday, like people will go buy a car with a very high interest rate and not know that they can get a house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like if you have a low credit but can get a car, you can have a low credit and get a house too if you know how to
Yeah.
manage your money and do what you're supposed
Right.
to do.
Right. And so let me insert this here. So even if a buyer is not ready credit wise, again, connecting to me, I have a credit specialist who can help you. Even the lenders that we work with. So if you don't want to talk to the credit specialist, or if you want to go ahead and just shoot for the application and see what happens, see
Mm-hmm.
where you are, the lender can look at your credit profile and say, okay, from the lender's standpoint, because a lot of times, like you said, we have our own opinions and we talk to people who are not as knowledgeable as the professionals in the
Right.
industry, and they get some of the facts misconstrued. So the lender's perspective, from the lender's perspective, they'll be able to say, hey, looking at your credit profile, in order to qualify for a mortgage, work on getting this, and this paid off, or get this taken care of on your credit profile. That'll put you more in a qualifying range. That might
Mm-hmm.
lower the debt to income ratio. Or the credit specialist can help you do the same thing, especially those credit specialists that work with a lot of home buyers.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're not a general credit person. They know what to look for to help a person qualify for a mortgage. Because a lot of times people think like, oh, well, I'm just going to pay off this collection, I'm going to do this. Truth be told, I had collections on my credit report when I purchased my house, and my lender didn't say anything about it.
That's something else. I did
So
not know that.
yeah, so we think, well, I'm going to pay off my collection and that should help me because it's a derogatory mark. Not necessarily. They
Right.
might say, you know what, that's not really a threat, but this high balance credit card is. Work on that.
Yeah. Okay. So that is good to know that realtors have credit specialists, some of them, and that the lenders can help too. I know this guy and this lady, they both like sell homes, but they also specialize in like credit repair. They're always like talking about credit repair. And one guy, I think he sold one of my cousins their homes, and they started a plan together to like get her credit to where it needed to be to get to the closing table. And I remember like her process and just seeing her stressed out, like, well, I can't do this, I'm cutting back on this. But I mean, she's like a homeowner for like 4 years now, so it paid off. But
And it's a
I just didn't
process.
think
It's
that.
a process. Like I have a client right now that I started with back in March, and she was not where she needed to be, and she's been working with the credit specialist, helping her get her score improved. And it's a journey. Those are clients that you have to nurture, and that's okay, because I want you to feel comfortable that when you're talking to someone that you've connected with, it feels like you're purchasing a home and you're having a friend help you versus just that random person that you meet online that's willing to just open a door for you. I don't just open doors. I walk through homes with you. I
Yeah.
look at what you tell me that you like. We'll talk about it while we're in the home. We'll plan it out while we're there. But getting up to that point for those people who have the credit repair needs,
Mhm.
it's so exciting to see, them come across your phone and they're like, oh my God, my score went up 50 points. Oh my God, I'm
Yes.
almost there. I should
Yeah.
be ready in 2 more months. That is so worth it to me.
Yeah. I feel like that is like, because anything worth having is worth working hard for. And when you see that transformation of like, okay, I have been here and now I'm this much closer to getting a house. Like I know for me, it's like I want a house by 33. So in my head, it's like if I can see that and it's just matching up with the goals, it would make me feel so good. So I'm glad I have gotten so much information because I didn't know that. I did not know that a lender or a realtor could help you in those ways with like with your credit repair and stuff. I didn't know that. I thought my misconception was I thought like a realtor would be like, no, you need to go work on your credit score. Come back when it's come back when it's fixed. We can talk about it. That's what I thought. I was like, I didn't even want to talk to a realtor because I didn't. Of course, it's invasive and it's like I don't want to tell anybody like my horrible low score,
Yeah.
but that's what I thought. And I was like, I'm not going to do that for them to just tell me, like, nah, you got to go work on it.
It happens all the time that, clients come to realtors who aren't ready yet. That is the name of the game. It's a part of the process.
Yeah.
So, and going back to what we originally spoke about, a realtor who has your best interest at heart, they're going to be patient with you.
Right.
If you look a lot about Zillow reviews and on Google, one of the main things that the clients always commend me for, and I appreciate it, is my patience.
Yeah.
Because it's a process, and I don't want to rush you to feel like you have to make any decision. And I want to facilitate the process with ease and patience. So it takes time.
Yeah.
It's
a good time. It's good time to take, and like especially if you have someone who's trusting. You sound so trustworthy. You just sound like a sister. Like I'm gonna be right here with you.
You're gonna be fine.
Yeah, it's like, honey, you're gonna be fine.
But seriously, a part of my job as a realtor, I'm a realtor. I refer people to credit specialists. I help you with your lender. I talk you off the ledge when you get cold. Yeah, I'm a therapist, a friend, a wine buddy, and I tell people all the time, I don't have clients, I have friends.
Right.
I have lifelong connections because I'm holding your hand very much so closely through this whole ordeal. We will talk so much. We will literally.
Yeah, you're going to be friends. Y'all become family.
I go to all the housewarming parties, just saying.
Exactly. Okay. Like you're a family member at this point. You've been in my house this much. You've been in my business this much. You're family.
Right.
So I think that's exciting. I feel like the conversation will help people to relieve some fears of taking the step into buying a home.
Right.
And I appreciate that. I'm glad because I got some questions answered myself. We talked about finance. We talked about credit scores. What are some do's and don'ts? What would you say your do's and don'ts are like?
For as a buyer?
As a buyer. Because you've been on
okay.
spectrums, like
so starting out looking for a home. What do you mean?
So when you're like as a buyer, should you go get like say you got a pre-approval right now? Your credit score is where you want it to be, but you don't have a realtor or you haven't found a house that is matching like what you really want.
Right.
Let's start there. Let's start with like you can't find a house. You got to pre-approve, but you can't find a house that you want.
So with that pre-approval, make sure that you are continuing to pay bills on time, of course.
Okay.
Being mindful of your spending. Being mindful of not running your credit, especially when you get a home under contract when you get under contract. Those are going to be things that could knock your credit score out of the qualifying range. That has literally happened to me. Years ago when I thought about getting a house, I did something and it knocked me out of the qualifying range and I had to wait a whole nother year. And then life happened and then I still couldn't. It's just a mess. So get mindful of not overspending, running your credit, or making sure that you're still continuing to pay your bills on time. In terms of a pre-approval, what a lot of people don't know also, it's okay to shop for different types of loan products, different companies, different mortgage, companies, different lenders. It's okay to shop for them. what a lot of people don't know, because they always say, well, I don't want to run my credit a bunch of times.
Right.
So when you start that initial credit inquiry to apply for a mortgage, if you have any type of credit monitoring program, you should get a notification that says, hey, looks like you applied for a mortgage. If you apply for any more within the next 14 days or so, they're all going to be counted as one inquiry, because credit bureaus do expect consumers to shop around.
Okay.
So if you apply back to back to back in a short period of time, I'm no credit specialist, so consult them, and I got one for you.
Right. Right.
But in a short period of time, you apply back to back to back. Generally, credit bureaus view that as one inquiry, because they do expect you to shop around. So yeah, those are some of the don'ts. Don't run your credit. Don't overspend, pay your bills on time. Well, that's a do. Some of the do's is continue to save money, be patient, understanding the market, of course, with your connection to the realtor. Something that you should do is when you do connect to a realtor, as much as you can, listen. I have no other way to put it. A lot of times clients are so hung up on what they've heard, what the news is saying, what their friends and family members are saying. Your friends and family members may have purchased a home 2, 3, 4 years ago. It's different now.
Right.
So with that person that has that industry knowledge and those expertise, who is fully immersed in the market on a day-to-day basis, full time, they understand the market trends, how they shift, what the industry is looking like, what the interest rates are doing, all that kind of stuff. So something you should do is take heed to your realtor's advice.
Okay.
And understand that if they have your best interest in heart, they're going to properly guide you throughout that process. So I think those would be my top do's and don'ts.
Okay, good. I know with my own experience, trying to not like run my credit on certain things was like, I was like, no, I'm not ready. Because I just kept like, I knew I got another credit card, that limit went up. So boom, I done spent it. Like, I was okay, I'm not ready. Maybe another year. And then now I'm at the point where I'm just like, no, I'm at my limit with credit cards. That's good. I'm like working on other things to just clear the way for this. Because I want it to be an easy process, but I think my main concern would be like, I'm not that trustworthy. So I probably would be that client, like, well, I heard this. Well, my friend bought a house and she said this. And it's like, I don't want my realtor to not be like, you know what, dismissive. But I feel like it would take like the relationship building for a person like myself, because I'm very hard to trust. And like, I'm like, okay, well, I heard this. I'm gonna be asking questions. I saw this in the news.
Yeah. It happens all the time, I'm telling you. And that's okay.
Like, I don't even want to work with you no more. If you're not gonna listen to me.
That's okay. For me personally, it's all about perspective, because I do understand, especially as a first-time home buyer, a lot of people just don't know. So it's not a matter of, like, oh my God, this person's asking me all these questions. They keep talking about what they heard.
Yeah.
That creates another opportunity for me to educate you. You know what I mean? And so if I'm coming from the perspective, okay, like, hey, absolutely, that may have been true then. Maybe you did hear that is on the news. But if I'm staying abreast, because I'm fully immersed in the market, like I said, I can be able to answer those questions and put you at ease and help you understand in an educational way what is true and what might be a myth.
Okay. So. All right. I like it. I'm so happy that I had this conversation with you, because I'm like, okay, I know I won't be like too pushy to a person, or I won't rub them the wrong way with my questions, because I am like a brand new person into this industry of trying to buy a home. So I appreciate that. Do you have any other closing remarks on like real estate? Because we're gonna get off topic for a second. Plug yourself. Where you at? Where can they find you if you're looking for a
So you can find me on Instagram at sabrina.hill.redkey. That's REDKEY. So at sabrina.hill.redkey. On Facebook, Sabrina the Realtor, STL, because I am in St. Louis, Missouri. And if you want to contact me, you can reach out to me via email, sabrinahill.realtor@outlook.com. I always say in all my posts, no obligations, ask me questions, understand. I call myself your pocket realtor. I'm on speed dial. You got your friend in your back pocket. So
I'm gonna put all of her stuff down in the link below so y'all can get with her, ask her all the questions y'all want that I didn't ask on this. And if y'all are interested in a home and you're in St. Louis, talk to my girl.
or if you're not in St. Louis, you can still contact me and I can refer you to someone in your state because I do partner with a relocation specialist.
Okay, nationwide with it. Y'all know that's
Exactly. Exactly. So you're over here like,
yeah, okay. Nationwide. If you need something, I can still point you to the right direction.
Still reach out. Still reach out.
Girl.
Got you.
So I'm excited. I just want to catch up with you because we're from the same town. I'm not gonna say where, but
Right.
we're in the same place. We ain't gonna talk about it too much. How do you feel about moving out of state and never looking back?
Ooh, girl, Missouri is the 8th state I moved to.
But you moved from home and you haven't been back home. That's the thing.
Hey, so okay, I did actually move back home, but not to the town.
Yeah.
But the town. But
y'all say it. I'm from Franklin. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, now go ahead, go back. And
no, it's not a bad idea. I think anybody should do it if you have resources, so a little bit of money saved up. And it ain't gotta be a lot because I didn't have a lot when I moved.
Okay.
It's not as scary as most people think. It's really not. I will say this though, it's not gonna fix your problems because once you unpack your clothes and all your stuff, you unpacking the problems with you. Your problems do move.
A word.
But because a lot of people think, oh, I'm just gonna get up and start a new life.
And then you're in for a rude awakening. I had so many questions. Like I moved to Atlanta and I had all these people like, oh, listen, like I'm so inspired. You just moved. I'm so proud of you. And then it was like, so why you move back? So what happened? Right, and then it's still people are like, I want to move, you know, what would you say? And I was like, do it. I always tell people to do it. However, my thing is I also add in like understand leaving where you are, it's not gonna fix your problems.
Right. I say and do your research. Do your research. If you have the resources and the ability to go to the area that you're thinking of moving, go there, visit, spend a weekend, spend a week if you can. Check it out. And that's literally what I've done in every state that I've moved to. I went there first. Mm-hmm. It's a little recon, what we call it in the military. Yeah. Army. Mm-hmm. But do a little recon, see what you like about it, what you don't like, do your research, call a few apartment communities or, you know, landlords, take some tours while you're out there, get an understanding of where you might potentially live, sign a short-term lease. If you don't like it, go home and don't feel bad if it doesn't work because you have more faith than somebody else who wouldn't even try it.
Exactly. And that's what I had to tell myself. Like, I did that. I didn't go visit though. And I probably should have visited, but I went to Atlanta. So, you know, I was just like, Atlanta's it. It's
there too. What years were you there? Because I was there from 16 to 18.
Yeah, I just went there. I went 21 and 22.
Okay.
I was there, like, I got a 9-month lease. And for me, I think it was a good idea. However, I probably should have did like a longer lease because I wasn't even ready to go yet. But I wanted to do a short lease in case. I was like, okay, if I don't like it, I can just leave. And then, but once the lease was up, I was like, oh damn, now I have to scramble to like find somewhere else to go or like renew this lease. And it was like, all right. But I still recommend people going. I just would always say like it's not something that's going to change your whole life. It's not going to make everything better. It's what you put in it that you'll get out of it.
So I will say with me having lived in 8 states, right. It has definitely given me a more diverse view of certain things, different cultures, different, you know, a variety of, let me just say food because I love to eat, but a different experience. Whew. And for some reason I've always lived in foodie areas, like man. But
what was your favorite? How do you like Missouri over like all the other places?
It has definitely grown on me. I would say that.
Mhm.
It would definitely has definitely grown on me. Um, but I would say probably Florida was my favorite. I lived in the Orlando area for 4 years. But I definitely say, it gave me a diverse view of different things. And I used to feel bad about it at first because, especially when you have different people and opinions, coming at you, you feel like, man, I'm not stable. I'm not, I keep moving and this and
Mhm.
that. And my thing is, listen, everybody that wonders is not lost. I'm
Okay.
figuring out what I want. I'm figuring out what I like. And I have a really good understanding of different places that I live to say, you know what, I do like this. I don't like that.
Right.
Gave me opportunity to get to know myself more.
Mhm.
So I encourage it. I think if you're finding you,
Mhm.
do it. Ultimately, Missouri is where I landed because of a job transfer, and then I ended up getting licensed and all that. But I ended up this being the first place unexpectedly that I ended up putting down some roots. I bought a house.
Yeah, I was about to say, because now you bought a house
And,
here. Come on, man. Yeah,
so you never know where your path takes you. I didn't expect to be in St. Louis. St. Louis. I came here for a
mean, girl,
job.
I followed you, so I was like, okay, she done moved. I knew you was in the military, and I'm like, my God, where? All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I came here for a job. I didn't expect to buy a house. I didn't expect to become a full-time entrepreneur. Like I didn't expect any of that. So you never know what
Right.
decision will lead to ultimately what want to do and what's for you. So I say do it.
I say do it too. I tell everybody to do it. I just say have a plan. Like have a plan and always have like a plan A. Like I
Yeah.
heard Steve Harvey say somewhere like he never had like a plan B or C. He always had like a plan A and like another plan to make his plan A work. And I was like, yeah, like that's so important because if you try to have like plan B and C, it's kind of like deteriorating you away, like deferring you from what your actual goal was. Like that's gonna give you an excuse to be like, okay, well, this isn't working. Let's do this. Like find a way to make this work. So that's what I would say because for me moving home, I'm like, I've realized so many ways where I could have made it work there.
Yeah.
Although I still didn't feel like it was the best time for me to stay there. I was like, okay, well, if I do it again, I know what to do. Like I know
Yeah.
if I go somewhere else, I know this is what I'm gonna do. So and the same thing is like I didn't like go out there and explore. I didn't really give myself time to like meet new people. Like I moved out there before a job. The
Yeah.
job was great and the job became like my family, and it's
Yep.
like
Yep. That happens.
that's okay, but it's like you want to find your own village somewhere.
Right. Right.
So
Right. So now I'm hanging out with my coworkers after
yeah,
hours.
all the time. Like I don't want that. So it was a good experience. But like I tell my sisters and like my friends and even people because so many people are like, I saw you move. Like it was like I want to move. I seen some girl who wrote me and was like, I moved because I saw you move. You did it. I was like, yeah, girl, do it.
Yes,
Shoot, I
countless
had these kids.
people.
I moved again.
Yes. Countless people have reached out to me like, well, what did you do? Where did you start? And I don't mind giving out free information. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, you want to do it? Yes.
Yeah, I always say that, especially for people from where we are from. I'm like, please get out of there. Go anywhere with it. Like,
I am a cheerleader and an advocate for people exploring.
I am too. I'm like, yes, the world's so big. Like,
Yeah.
explore it all. I don't want to take any more of your time. I appreciate you
Good.
so much, Sabrina. For
Thank
real, it's been
you.
great. I don't like to have real long podcasts, but I might bring you back because we can talk about love, girl. Because do I need to move to find my man?
Listen.
Because you got the rain, baby. Do I need to move?
We might need to have a part two conversation
Yeah,
because
we
that's a
gotta talk
story
about
in
it. Cause
itself.
girl,
That's a story in
not in
itself.
Virginia. Right, but if you are and you're serious,
Hit my girl up. She said, hey.
I'm single, okay? No, but thank you so much. Y'all reach out to Sabrina Hill. She's on Instagram, she's on Facebook. I'm about to put her outlook on the description bar below. Okay.
Yes, I appreciate
I
y'all.
appreciate
Thank
you
you,
too.
girl. I appreciate you having me.
I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Stay tuned. I'm gonna text you as soon as this is done. Okay. Bye.